Back, everybody. This is the second installment of the office update from McGraw Commercial Properties. So giving an update on what we're seeing in the office market here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, as well as national perspectives on things that we have been made aware of, our communications with other brokers and other owners from around the country. So let's start from a national perspective. Lisa, what are you seeing from a national perspective? What's the biggest headline that you're seeing?
There was an article that came out yesterday, actually, through CoStar that said that the sublease market is, the amount of square footage that's coming on the market is almost like 3 times what they're seeing compared to direct listings.
Right. So no surprise, a lot of people are swimming in space. They want to get rid of it. All various sectors have been affected by this. Here locally, oil and gas is a big sublease tenant in our market. What are some of the data? Do you know the square footages?
On the national level, there's like 131 million square feet available for sublease, and a year ago it was 100 million. So that's gone up almost close to 30%.
Yeah.
And then
Jones Lang LaSalle had come out with a quote that's saying that office leasing worldwide was down 40% in the first, I guess that'd be the second quarter, the first couple months of the pandemic.
Yeah.
So no surprise, big drop. Nobody's doing anything. Now we're getting into the trough where people are making decisions, putting space back on the market.
And we just, even between me, Hannah, and you, we've got like 50,000 square feet of sublease space listed. So pretty big chunk of what we're working on right now. But I think
oil and gas, we have, I think that's probably a sign of the environment. Another one is not necessarily attributable to the environment. One is buying a location and getting out of a leased location that still has some term left on it. So they're going to sublease that space. And then other ones are probably economic related. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would. I mean, I think everyone's just trying to reanalyze what they should do and decide if they need all the space that they're in and trying to cut their costs if they can. And one advantage I would say with the sublease is you can get a lower rate and compared to what maybe the building owner is asking in some of these buildings.
Sure.
Which kind of makes the building owner compete with their tenants a little bit. But
all this brings in several different questions that we get from tenants, and you guys, add questions that you've heard or back me up on this. There's an article that Globe Street had put out. It's called "What Employees Need When Working from Home." So I've gone through, highlighted a few different things. This gets into the conversation that the exact thing you're talking about on the sublease side is that the tenant experience is going to be different going forward. And I think that there is a huge burden on the landlord or the provider of space in order to be very transparent and to be very trustworthy in their reporting and cleanliness tactics. So property management is getting a new lesson on cleaning. It's spurring the growth of a lot of different things, but they give some very interesting statistics. So let me go through this with you. So there's a survey done by the company called Equium, which collected 4,500 poll results in Australia, Ireland, US, and the United Kingdom between April and May. And they said that the wide majority of employees, 82%, that is a huge number, said that they were as or more productive at home. The counter to that in the same sentence is that 56% of those people wanted better work setups and 45% missed having conversations with colleagues. So you have a huge departure from collaboration, a huge departure from communication. For a short period of time, I think everybody thought that was great. I can catch up on projects that were behind. I can be more productive. Are you guys hearing the same examples or anything different?
Absolutely. Very, very similar. Most people really enjoyed working from home, but I think specific industries, since we are primarily office market, a lot of people that have an office, they have it for a reason, and they're really starting to see the kind of negative balance of working from home for about 6 months now.
Right. We have all been on these Zoom calls. Those of us, even just in the office, we've all seen each other's home backgrounds. I have been on professional Zoom calls and I've seen some of those backgrounds. I think we can all attest that not everyone has a home office. I've seen bedrooms with the closets open and clothes hanging out and the kids running to the bathroom. It's the whole mess. So not everybody's afforded a dedicated space at home. That cannot be more productive than isolating yourself in an office.
I agree. I mean, it like you said, it was kind of nice at first and people were hunkered down, but now people are, I think, getting antsy and want to just get back to normal. So
the article goes on to say that the impairments to productivity included technical and internet issues. So you have to have internet, you have to have a computer, a microphone that can hear you and all these sort of things. But I think the human element of this was most distracted by there was no explicit start or end to the day. So there's not an 8, there's not a 5, it's just whenever you get it done. And that is a new adjustment to a lot of people. There's no turning it off. You are on all the time, which is crazy. So getting back into the buildings, let's talk a little bit from a national perspective, what landlords are going to be responsible for. Same article, over 80% of employees expect up-to-date information on active in-building COVID cases, which I don't know how you can do that because that might be a HIPAA violation, but that's going out the window apparently. And then cleaning procedures from the landlords or the company, over 60% expect current office density information to be available. So this is a new metric that you would track, right? So if you're showing space around downtown, someone might ask the question, what's the occupancy? Not just how many square feet are occupied, how many people are in this building? That's never been tracked. I don't think. It's not in the leases. So that's a new metric that would be introduced. What's the office density?
And one thing I'll be really interested to see the extra cost that's going to be associated to landlords for keeping a building clean, all the PPE that they're having to provide. What percentage of that will be billed back to CAM or expenses to people that have a lease that's not full service? So I'll be interested to see come 2021 and 2022 how these numbers currently will affect rents moving forward.
I am a nerd for this technology stuff. I have a good friend that's in it. I've asked him about thermal cameras, and you can take your temperature walking in, you can go into the wall, people can see if they have the temperature. You're not going to be regulated in. Going a step further, there's a guy, his name is Joe Brady. He's the CEO of the Americas for the Instant Group. He said implementation of technology enabled by the Internet of Things. If you're familiar with that, that's everything that's somehow connected to the internet. Hosting very different sensors. So this is fast forwarding the evolution of the office space. He goes, sensors can be invaluable tools in not only detecting occupancy, but also enabling sanitation. This is a cool thing. He said you could have motion controlled switches in bathrooms that would toggle the UV lighting to disinfect surfaces when no one's in the bathroom. So door closes, no activity, UV lights come on and blast everything. So that's a neat thing. You can do that in the office spaces. You can do it in the elevators. You can do it just about everywhere.
Again, that adds to the operating costs, though. The tenant's eventually going to pay for that a little bit. So
yeah, I've got a 500,000 square foot high rise downtown, and now I've got to turn UV lighting integration on every floor. I don't know. Otherwise, you got to just pay people to come in and disinfect it.
As far as I know, there's not anyone. I haven't witnessed it in any of the buildings I've gone in. Someone taking temperatures or doing anything to really watch that in the Tulsa market, but I know it's
pretty forgiving, I think, so far in Oklahoma. It hasn't been that bad. We're still the Wild West in a way. That mentality is that I'm not going to encroach upon your deal. One further thing to note on the national side was an article about co-working 3.0. So the original shared spaces is 1.0. 2.0 is the WeWork environment starting, I think, back around 2012, maybe 2010, up to the last couple of years, 850 locations around the world. That has taken a major hit because of the density of the space and the openness of that. And now you've got 3.0. The same scenario exists. And I don't know too many people that are doing this. There are WeWork and other offshoots of co-working spaces, but in my mind, I'm thinking of large corporate owners with high rises of space, maybe a floor that they have open or 2 floors that they would turn into these flex spaces, this on-demand space. But there seems to be a trend, obviously, and no kidding there. In order to achieve this, it's flexible office solutions. So let me read a little bit from the article. Let's introduce co-working 3.0. May not be called co-working, but this flexible office solution will allow companies to occupy their own space for lease terms that are more in line with 2.0, kind of a co-work space or a WeWork space. In order to achieve this, traditional landlords will allocate portions of their building, 10 to 30%, for flexible lease terms. The spaces will be built out on spec, many will be furnished, and lease forms will be standardized. This is a standardized, that's a cookie cutter deal. I don't know if you need a broker for this kind of thing. That's an evolution in our world.
Right.
A hard part for this, I think, is going to be lending. If you're buying a building and 30% of it is dedicated to the unknown, come and go, that's a hard thing to underwrite, as well as sales on a cap rate basis. That's not a long-term tenant. That is a come and go as we please kind of thing. So I don't know if there's enough data there to suggest it. Are you seeing tenants interested in this flexibility?
Haven't really had anybody asking for that at the moment. I'm kind of with you. I've seen articles where people are creating more of a come in with your laptop scenario, or outdoor spaces so that there's good airflow, which I think also goes to the HVAC system in the building. They're gonna have to start looking at ways to keep the air cleaner.
Yeah, HEPA filters, UV filters, all that kind of stuff.
But I really haven't had a ton of people ask me about co-working 3.0 type scenarios. What about you, Anna?
So I would actually say I have seen a pretty big increase in just inquiry. I wouldn't say necessarily the demand is quite yet there, but there was an article recently published with the Tulsa World that talked about 34% of our tech industry. We've seen a 34% growth in tech-related industry in the past year. And as we all know, the Tulsa Remote Program relocated remote workers to Tulsa. And so I think having an influx of different types of jobs to the city will then create the demand for more of this co-working 3.0 space.
For those that are watching, sorry to cut you off, but for those that are watching that aren't familiar with the Tulsa Remote Program, would you give the details of that?
So Tulsa Remote is a offshoot of George Kaiser Family Foundation. Essentially, the foundation subsidized people paying upwards of $10,000 to relocate to Tulsa for a minimum of 1 year.
So you're in Seattle. I have a remote work job. I hear about an offer. I can make $10,000 just to move to Tulsa, minimum 1 year, right? And there's a video. Have you seen the video where people go through? They've interviewed. Do you know the count? How many people have done this? It's a bunch.
A lot. We'll just say the program initially where they were thinking about 100 people, and I think they had thousands of applicants.
Right. So there was a bunch, and they have interviewed them all at the gathering place about where they were, what they did, why did you do it, how do you like it now? And I haven't seen a negative experience. Maybe they cut it out of the video, but it goes on and on and on. They're like, I've never been to Tulsa. I could make $10,000. I got here and like, this is incredible. So it was a nice promotion for the city of Tulsa. But that's in that realm of that flexible office space. If you're a remote worker, that might be something that you're interested in. As far as companies go, that's a tough one. That you're making decisions for the life of your company. And if you can just float back and forth on a month-to-month basis, that's not a whole lot of solidarity. I don't know that is a huge component of the office market yet. I don't know that we're in that transition yet, but it is something that is out there. Landlords obviously have to be aware of it. And potentially carve off maybe a historically hard to lease floor or a hard to lease portion of a building for that flexible environment. So that might be a positive or a silver lining in order to take advantage of that stuff.
Definitely. And I mean, Oklahoma as a state, we have historically been very dependent on oil and gas in every single facet imaginable. And I think what we're starting to see is as things kind of do change, how the market adapts to that. And I think we always have a need for office. I think the responsibility for the landlord is going to look a little different in the coming years, which will then impact tenants a couple of years after that. So it's definitely a work in progress for sure.
Yeah, well, good. We're going to try and keep it short today. So we've covered from a national perspective, from a local perspective. Real quick before we wrap up, any significant deals that you have seen? Is it rosy or fairly dark at the moment?
I'm going to be
yeah, the activity I think that we're having is smaller space scenarios. We're not getting those big 5,000, 10,000 square foot leads right now. But in looking back at some reports that we ran for the current year, there were some bigger deals done at the beginning, the first quarter, maybe a
Seem to
couple
be in progress already.
Yeah, things that were probably pre-COVID deals, and then if you look at the report, it kind of drops off after the second quarter. There's really not a whole lot of big deals happening. So
definitely, I would say leasing has slowed down significantly from the landlord side and the tenant side. However, sales, we have had a couple new listings of people wanting to sell their building. And I actually have a couple of clients that are looking to purchase buildings. And so I think companies that already had the financial means are more interested in purchasing right now, to where leasing just seems a little bit more volatile and unknown.
I think the underlying rule is a staple in any economy is that there's always a flight to quality. There's always someone that wants the best, wants better, and wants to ladder up. In times like these, you're finding people that have a good cash position that say, you know what, I'm ready. I need a better building. And now that they could be on sale if you find the right deal.
Definitely.
I think we are coming in, the PPP money is rolling off at this point. I think we're right on the cusp to really starting to see what side of the cliff we might be on, or how far you could possibly come down from an economic standpoint. It'll be interesting if we do this again in August, maybe at the end of next month, into September, how things look. So we'll kind of keep everybody posted there. So any other highlights?
I think we covered a lot.
All right. We'll keep it going. We'll keep it short. Okay. Thanks again for your guys' time today. Hannah Demuth, Lisa Brandis here at McGraw Commercial Properties. We appreciate you tuning in. Reach out to us. 918-388-9588 is the main line. First initial, last name at McGrawCP.com would be our email address. info@McGrawCP.com is another one. The website, McGrawCP.com. If you want to reach out, get any additional information, any links to the stuff that we talked about today, we're happy to do that for you. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.